Alright, in this video I am going to go through test 1A and I'm going to explain how to solve each of these problems. Alright, question number 1 said, how do you convert this into an equation? 4 times the quotient of x and y. Well, what does quotient mean? Quotient means division. So you have 4 times the quotient of x and y, so x over y. Decreased means that you subtract, right? By the product. Well, what does product mean? The multiplication. The multiplication of what? The product of s, right, times the square of t. Well, how do you square t? You do t squared. So then this will actually lead you to the answer choice, which if you look, it's 4x over y minus st squared. So it would be this one, choice D. And indeed, that was the answer choice. Alright, question number 2 asks, what is the difference of half the product of x and y and the square root of z? Well, difference implies that you're going to be subtracting 2 things. What are those 2 things? Well, the first thing is this. It's the difference of this minus this. So how do you write half the product of x and y? Well, half the multiplication, because that's what product means, half the multiplication of x and y, minus, what's the second thing? The square root of z. Well, how do you take the square root of z? Right, you take the square root of z. So this is the difference of half the product of x and y and the square root of z. So when you look at the test, let's see if I can put it on camera. Oh, I did have the right question. So you would see that the answer would be A, because this is half the product of x and y, and this is minus the square root of z. So the answer choice is A. Alright, in question number 3, it's a literal equation, and they're asking you to solve for M1. Well, the first thing you should notice is that M1's over here, and you want to leave M1 by itself. Well, the first thing I would do, I would understand this as f over 1. So you have f over 1 equals g m1 m2 over r squared. If this is a fraction facing off a fraction, so when you have the situation, you would cross multiply. Right? So what is f times r squared? Well, it's f times r squared. And you cross multiply this. Well, 1 times this is just that. So you get g m1 m2. And you want to leave m1 by itself, but it's being multiplied to these 2 right now. So how do you get rid of multiplication? We divide both sides. See, this cancels out the g's, cancels out the m2's. And what do we have? We have that m1 equals f r squared over g m2. And you go to the test and you find the answer choice that matches this. F r squared gm2 happens to be C, and that's the correct answer choice. Alright, the next question had absolute value and you had to evaluate the expression. Well, the main thing to do here is if you don't have a calculator that does absolute value, then you have to do it by hand. I'm going to do it by hand on the video. The first thing you have to do is you need to evaluate the absolute value. So you bring everything down, 5 minus, inside this is a negative 7, right? Plus the 2. And inside these absolute value bars is a negative 4. Now we're going to evaluate the absolute value. This is 5 minus, what's the absolute value of negative 7? Well, it's 7. Plus 2 times the absolute value of negative 4, which happens to be a 4. And then you type all of this into your calculator, and you get a 6. And when you look at the test, the answer choice would be B. Problem number 5 says that you have to simplify this expression. Now, the easiest thing would be to plug this into your calculator. if you have one of those calculators that you can do natural entries like this one. If not, then you can try simplifying this. I see that I have this term, and these two terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify each term and then I'm going to combine everything. Well, when I look at this, this is negative 7 times 9 minus 14, which is a negative 5. Right? Minus 6 squared is 36. Plus 8 times negative 3, which happens to be a negative 24. Plus, well, what is this? This is 41 minus 4 times negative 13. If you work out the numerator, you get a 93, and we have a 3 on the bottom. So then negative 7 times negative 5 is a positive 35, minus a 36, minus a 24, plus 93 divided by 3 is 31. And when you tally everything up, you get a 6. And that is the answer on the test. Now, when you look at this problem, this is not a multiple choice problem, okay? These are values that were given to you, and the question literally says, substitute the given values for the indicated variables and evaluate the expression. So you have to literally plug in these values into this expression and then evaluate. So this is 3 times A. What is A? A is a 4. What is D? D is a 5. Plus B. B is a negative 2. Times 2 minus the value of C. What is C? A negative 12. Well, negative or minus a negative 12 is plus a 12. Minus C, which is a negative 12 over A minus B. A 4 minus a negative 2, which means a plus 2. And now you just work it out. 3 times 4 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 3 is a 60. This, you have to do this part first. What's 2 plus 12? It's a 14, right? So it's a negative 2 times a 14. And you can keep this in parentheses if you want to. It's still multiplication. All right, this is minus a negative 12. Notice I haven't changed it. I want to add these two first over a 6. All right, so you have 60. What's negative 2 times 14? Well, it's negative 28. So it says plus a negative 28 minus, what's negative 12 divided by 6? Well, it's a negative 2. And you just start cleaning it up. And at this point, you can feel free to plug it into your calculator. This is minus a negative 2, so it's plus 2. And so now you work it on your calculator, and you get that the answer is 34. Now in number 7, you have to solve the equation for x. And the first thing to note is that this negative sign has to be distributed in. Right, so we have 5x minus 7 and plus 3x. Right, because when you distribute in a negative sign, the signs change. Equals negative 2x plus 3. That doesn't change. Now on this side, you have a 5x and a 3x. Now something that a student might do, they might do this. This is wrong, very wrong, because they're on the same side of the equal signs. You only do that when you're on opposite sides of the equal sign. It's a very incorrect thing to do. This, you just combine like terms. You have 5x and 3x, so really you have 8x. Minus 7, right, this part right here, equals negative 2x plus 3. Now, right, these are not like terms and these are not like terms. So what you have to do is now start balancing on opposite sides of that equal sign. So I like to keep my x's on the left. So I'm going to move this plus 2x plus 2x, right? And so 8 plus 2 is 10. So I have 10x minus 7 equals 3. And I'm going to move the 7 to the other side. Notice that you have to add it to both sides. You can't just change it on one side. You have to change it on both. So now we have 10x equals 10. And I'm going to divide both sides by 10. And I get that x equals, right, because this cancels and this becomes a 1. X equals 1. And that would be the answer. Alright, in number 8, same type of problem. You have to solve the equation for x. So the first thing you have to do is you have to distribute the 2. And we're going to get 6x minus 26 plus 19 equals, we got to distribute the negative 2. So we're going to get negative 2x plus 12 plus 5. And now we're going to combine like terms. And over here, this one and this one are like terms. So this becomes plus 17. And on this side, this one and this one are like terms. So we have 6x minus 7. Yeah. Like I said before, I like my x's on the left side. So I'm going to bring this one over. Six plus 2 is 8, so I have 8x minus 7 equals, right, 17, because this canceled. And I'm going to bring the 7 over. So I have 8x equals plus 3, 24. And since I want to leave x by itself, I'm going to get rid of the 8. So I have x equals 3. Right? 24 divided by 8 is 3. And that would be the answer. Alright, this problem is an inequality, and we have to solve for x, and then we have to sketch it, graph it on the number line. So the first thing is, there's nothing to distribute on either side. And like I said, I like my x's on the left side, so I'm going to bring this 5x over by subtracting it, because it's positive. And 3 minus 5x gives me a negative 2x. I bring down the plus 8. I bring down my inequality sign, and then negative 2. And I'm going to get rid of the 8, minus 8, minus 8. So I bring down the negative 2x. Less than or equal to, and this becomes a negative 10. Now, here's the thing. When you divide, you see this is negative 2? Because you're dividing by a negative number, then you have to flip this. So now you have x equals greater than or equal to positive 5. And to sketch this on the number line, right, negative 5 would be somewhere here. It's, you see this equal bar right here? Because you have that equal bar, this becomes a closed circle. And we want all the numbers that are greater than negative 5. I mean, what am I doing? Ooh, it's a positive 5, right? We'll just pretend that's a positive 5 right there. We want the numbers that are greater than or equal to positive 5. So that would be how you would sketch it on the number line. Alright, this is problem number 10. And in this problem, it's still an inequality. We're still solving for x, but we have to distribute this 3. So we get 3 minus 12x is greater than negative 7 minus 2x. And I like my x's on the left side, so I'm going to move this over. So I'm going to say plus 2x plus 2x. Right? This cancels here. So I bring down the 3. Negative 12 plus 2 is a negative 10x. This doesn't change. And I have a negative 7 on this side. I'm going to get rid of the 3. So I'm going to do minus 3, minus 3. Right. That cancels. So I bring down the negative 10x greater than, this is negative 10. Now remember, every time you divide by a negative number, and we're dividing by a negative number right now, this has to flip. Right, so we have x is less than or equal to 1. And how would you sketch this on the number line? If this is the 1. Now this doesn't have an equal bar, so this stays open. And we want all the numbers that are less than 1. Numbers that are less than 1 are to the left. Right, number 11, you have an inequality, but it has absolute value. Every time you have absolute value, you have to write 2. So the first one that you write is 3x plus 8 is greater than 2x plus 7. And the other one that you write is 3x plus 8. Notice that that doesn't change, but you have to flip this. And you have to change the sign on these. So it's minus 2x minus 7. Right? And then what you do is you solve each of them. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Like I said, I like my x's on the left side. It makes life a little bit easier. This becomes x. 3 minus 2 is just 1. I bring down my plus 8. This stays the same, and I have a 7 here. And I subtract 8 from both sides. So I have x is greater than negative 1. This is one solution. Oh, wait, the glare. You can see it a little bit better there. There we go. Okay. And with this one, I'm going to move the 2x over. Three plus 2 is 5. Less than negative 7. I have a plus 8 here. I'm going to subtract the 8 from both sides. And I have 5x is less than negative, oh god, I can't add anymore. 3 and 5, 15. And I'm going to divide by 5. Now notice that this time I'm dividing by a positive 5. So my sign is not going to change. So I have x is less than negative 3. And this is the other answer. And then so how do we sketch this? You place both critical points on the number line. Negative 3 would be here. Negative 1 would be here. Both of them are open because there's no equal bar on our inequality signs. And we want the numbers that are less than negative 3. Well, that would be this way. And we want all the numbers that are greater than negative 1. And this would be the answer. And this would be the number line graph. Okay? Alright, in problem number 12, you have an equation that has absolute value. And like I said in the previous video, when you have absolute value, you have to write two equations. So the first equation that you write is 3x minus 1 equals x plus 5. And the second equation that you write is 3x minus 1 equals, you have to change the sign, negative x minus 5. And then you solve each of them individually. I'm going to subtract x from both sides, because like I said before, I like my x's on the left. 3x minus x is 2x. I have a minus 1. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I have 2x equals 6. And I'm going to divide both sides by 2. X equals 3. That's one answer. Now on this side, I'm going to add x to both sides because it's a negative x. So I have 4x minus 1 equals negative 5. I'm going to get rid of the negative 1 by adding 1 to both sides. And I have 4x equals negative 4. Divide both sides by 4. I get x equals negative 1. Now both of these would be the answer. I would have to check them. Sorry. Let me see. Plug it in to the original problem. So we have the absolute value of 3 times 3 minus 1 equals 3 plus 5. This is 9 minus 1. 9 minus 1 is 8. Does the absolute value of 8 equal 8? Yes. Check. So x equals 3 is an answer. Use this one and you plug it in as well into the problem. You have 3 times negative 1 minus 1 equals negative 1 plus 5. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. This is absolute value of negative 4. Does the absolute value of negative 4 equal 4? Yes. Check. So both of these are the answer choices. Alright, and the next question, number 13, we wanted you to give us the slope. And the slope is the leading coefficient on the x, so it's minus 4/3. We wanted the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is a coordinate point. And the y value for this comes from the constant, right? So it's 0, 2. And then we wanted you to sketch this. So first you plot this point, 0, 2, right? And then you look at the slope. The slope is negative. That means you go down 4 over 3. Alright, so you go down 4 and you go over 3. So starting from this point, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you just draw straight line. What would this point be? This is 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2. Right. So that would be the sketch of the graph. Sorry, to you guys it would look like this. This is x, and this is the y-axis. Alright, same thing with number 14. The problem with this is that it's not in y equals mx plus b form, slope-intercept form, so we have to solve for y. In order to do that, what we do is we subtract x from both sides, right? We get minus 3y equals, I'm going to swap these, minus x plus 6. Then you can divide by negative 3. What's negative 1 divided by negative 3? Well, positive 1/3, right? And this is a negative 2. 6 divided by negative 3. So your slope is going to be positive 1/3. Your y-intercept is going to be, remember that the value comes from the constant, the y value. And then you sketch. Right? 0, negative 2. And the slope is positive, so it's up 1 over 3. Right? So up 1 over 3. So from here, up 1 over 3. 1, 2, 3. Oops, totally missed that point. And this one would be 1, 2, 3, negative 1. So 3, negative 1. Alright, this is a system of two equations, and the solution comes from, now you can do elimination. I'm going to go for substitution. So I'm going to take the first equation. Right, and I have x minus y equals 5, and I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to get rid of the y, I'm going to send it over to the other side. So that means that x equals 5 plus y. And then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to plug it into the second equation for x. So instead of x, I'm going to write 5 plus y. It says plus 2y. equals negative 4. Right. 5y plus 2y is 3y. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. I have 3y equals negative 9 divided by 3. I get y equals negative 3. Right, this is the y value. I need the x value. Well, I'm going to use it on this one. Because I know x equals 5 plus y, but I already know y. This is 5 plus a negative 3. That means x equals 2. It's 5 minus 3. And this is the answer. So the solution that you report is the x value 2 and the y value negative 3. These two lines intersect at this point. Alright, and the last question on the test was another systems question. And when I look at this, I see that this one has a leading coefficient of 1. So that's why I would solve for that x. Right? So you have x plus 3y equals 2. And I'm doing is rewriting it so I have somewhere my stuff to work with. Right? And I want to solve for the x. I'm going to get rid of the 3y. So I have x equals 2 minus 3y. See, now I don't have to divide by anything over here. It's already x equals 2 minus 3y. Since I got this from the second one, I'm going to plug this in to the other one. Right. So this becomes 2 times x. What is x? 2 minus 3y. Plus 5y. Equals 3. Right? But this time I have to distribute a 2. So this is 4 minus 6y plus 5y equals 3. Negative 6y plus 5y. They're on the same side, so all I'm going to do is combine them. 4 minus y equals 3. Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. I'm going to get rid of the 4. Minus 4 minus 4. I have negative y equals negative 1. And I can just get rid of the negative signs. I have y equals 1. Now how am I going to get the x value? I'm going to use that. I know x equals 2 minus 3 times y. What is y but 1? X equals 2 minus 3, which means x equals negative 1. So how do I give the answer? The x value is negative 1 and the y value is a 1. Alright, this was test 1A. Please make sure that you work through it step by step so that you learn how to do this, okay?